I won't call them rapid fire, but we're gonna get into a few,
All right, bet.
non-interview esque, questions. Um, how do you define a dynasty in sports?
Three or more. Two is good, but it needs to be three or more, and then also in a short span. So like 3 and 10 is a dynasty for me. 3 and 15 doesn't really feel like a dynasty. The core has to kind of be there. So I would say three or more is a dynasty for me.
10 is a long window for three.
Okay, really?
Well, it depends on it. I guess it kind of depends on the sport, but I guess it also depends on because I also look at it like this. If I'm looking at it from the NBA perspective, rarely do you have a core that stays together for
It's
10 years.
hard. It's hard,
In
man.
any
It's really
sport,
hard.
almost, really, honestly, especially when you talk about having multiple superstars or high level players, because when those paydays come around, a lot of times, teams just aren't able to keep everybody. I think the only team I've seen do it since they've got all their stars or since they've developed all their stars is Golden State, where they've kept
Yeah.
multiple all stars, this, that, and the third for a long period of time. I think 10 is a long window because I think 3 and 10 can be done by teams that would not be considered dynasties.
And then rebuild with a new core, maybe.
It's just spread out, or they just kind of
Yeah.
get lucky and get the right piece. And after being gone 2-3 years, they're back in the fold. And of course, anything happens in the playoffs, so you never know. I think if I'm thinking about a dynasty, I feel like I agree with the three. I feel like that window should at least be half. So I would say if it's
Okay.
like 3 and 6, and but you're there all six, you're in the mix
That
six.
that's a big part of it as
That's the
well. Like,
big
how
thing.
many are you there for? How many do you win? Like the Chiefs, I think benefit from the fact that they went to Tampa and lost. Like now it kind of enhances their like you've been to 5 straight AFC title games, 4 Super Bowls, you won two. Like the resume kind of stacks a little bit more.
Yeah, and they have an opportunity. They just really struck gold with Mahomes. I mean, because I don't think anybody expected him to be that. But you're talking about somebody who, after what I think sitting a year, basically got thrust into it, and then, like you said, has the floor is the AFC Championship game. So if that is your resume for the first 4 or 5 years of your career, we're talking about somebody, and as far as Mahomes, who easily, of course, barring serious injury, is playing another
10 at least.
years at least.
Yeah.
So in terms of that window, like sometimes windows are different depending on a player that you may have. Not so much the team, but I feel that I definitely think the 3 championships is like that is the minimum of like accomplishment of hard
Yeah.
work. I think everything else, of course, is out of a lot of the players' control per se, but it's tough. I just feel like whatever window you put it in, as long as you are in the mix consistently and you are either there and fall short or you win, I think that can count as a dynasty. I think the only caveat to that is if you're consistently in the mix but consistently fall short.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an asterisk there. What is your favorite thing about being a sports reporter?
It's a soft life, man. I mean,
Oh,
it is not rocket science by any means. I watch sports for a living. I give my takes on the sports that I watch for a living. Yes, there's a lot of different mediums, a lot of different hoops you got to jump through, but I am very fortunate to say that I watch sports for a living professionally and then talk about it on air. That is my favorite. My girlfriend is a middle school social worker and tells me about some of the things she has to go through. So I know every day I'm reminded that I live a charmed life.
I mean, when that's the comparison, yeah, no. Soft life took me. I was not prepared for that. I'm sorry. Um, Other than anchoring, is there any other medium that you like the most in regards to either talking about your content, creating content for pushing that particular type of content? I know you kind of spoke about it earlier, the different mediums that kind of exist, but what would you say is your favorite medium outside of anchoring, if anchoring is even it?
I like podcasting, and that kind of is the future. I mean, it's like radio flipped with like a little bit longer form. I have a Chiefs podcast. I've appeared on a lot of different podcasts and radios. Like, I feel like that gives me a little bit more runway to show my personality and that kind of thing. I am I'm not don't envy this new generation where like you have your one job where like, let's say you work in a traditional medium where it's print, radio, TV, and then social media is like a whole second job, like repurposing all of your content for TikTok or repurposing all like that is essential to the job now. I remember when I first started in TV, it was like we had to post on Facebook once a day, and that was our social media usage. Now it's like if that's all you're doing, you're completely lost. You're completely lost in the dark. Like,
Yeah.
Podcasting is fun for me.
I feel that. Yeah. No, I think I fell in love with podcasting a while ago. I think I always enjoyed the conversational aspect of podcasts.
Yeah.
I agree that podcasts, as opposed to what you typically see in a newsroom or on air with anchors, there's a bit more room for personality. There's a bit more room for, I guess, just whatever comes natural. I feel like, of course, like when you're reading a teleprompter, when you're just, in a newsroom, like, or you're an anchor, a lot of it is scripted. That's what I'm trying to say. Podcast ability to be unscripted in that part of the conversational aspect of it, I think, is what made me fall in love with podcasting. And then also, to your point, I mean, the repurposing aspect, it gets to a point where, yeah, like you have to, if you're creating something long form, you're going to have to break that down for if you want to
bite size,
have maximum reach, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, absolutely. Who are your three biggest inspirations?
Stuart Scott, gave love to him earlier, and I'm sure there were people before him that were doing this, but for me at my age, I mentioned earlier, I'm 27, like watching SportsCenter before and after school, he was the guy who showed us it could be done. And with the swag, with the confidence, with the unapologetically black, like Stuart Scott was one. For me, the evolution of that was Bomani Jones. He was kind of the smart guy that maybe wasn't he was a little nerdy and awkward. Like he wasn't the funnest dude, but like he knew what he was talking about. He was smart. He saw sports from a different lens. I follow him all the way to like his HBO stuff now. Like I still think he is like very different and has a unique voice in how he does things. Made it to ESPN and that kind of thing. So him and Bomani. Third one is a little bit of off beating the path. I don't know if people listen to Dan Lebertard at all, but he was another former ESPN employee, has now broken off and has his own company called Meadowlark Media. And that's where I kind of see the future of something that I would like to do, is like kind of own my own outlet at one point in time, where like instead of working for a media company that sells advertising, like I can just talk directly to advertisers and have them work with me instead of there being a middleman. Lebatard is doing that now. I think he has a very unique voice. He is somebody that has like a different blueprint, a different way they see things. It's beyond X's and O's. They can be funny about some things. I know some people hate being funny in sports, but those three guys for me kind of showed me that like you can be different, you can be unique, you can have fun. It doesn't always have to be extremely serious. And then and I think early in my career also I like did like imitations of them because I wanted to be them so bad. Like I did my version of Bomani Jones, or did like my version of Stuart Scott. And eventually through time, I like kind of grew into like, I can like be motivated by them, or I can be inspired by them and do something like my own way. So I would always push people to like have people who inspire you, have people that you look up to, but do your own spin on it. Don't do like a caricature of someone else.
Right. Absolutely. Last of these type of questions.
Yeah.
Favorite sports moment that does not include work.
Ooh, favorite sports moment that does not include work. The Braves winning the World Series is my best sports moment recently. I'm from Atlanta. Never thought I'd see an Atlanta team win a trophy. Braves won one. It doesn't include work, but I was working at the time that I saw it. That was really cool. They're another good team this year entering postseason play. I don't know when this is going to publish, but hopefully, fingers crossed, We'll have something else to celebrate when it comes to the Braves very soon. Went down to the parade, drove from KC 14 hours, met my dad down there. The Braves are one of those teams that like got me in love with sports. So to see them finally do it after they did it in 95, the year before I was born. So to see them do it in my lifetime was something where I was like, I was a fan again. Like, yay, yay, I could be a fan again.
Yeah, that was me with the Bucks in 21.
Yeah, bet.
Yeah, definitely made that drive back for game 6 on a whim.
Got to.
Had to. My mom really tried to convince me to stay here.
No, 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 no,
I was
no.
like, Mom, come home for game 6. She like, well, why are you gonna miss work? I said, I'm just gonna have to take this L. I'm coming back for this game. Because if we win, I'm not missing that. Like I'm not missing that opportunity. And we won. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, man. But yeah.